Indra is joining us from the Latvia Association of Landscape Architecture in Riga as a landscape architect, and Indra is going to speak about restorative building and operations, which was working group 3 of Restore. The floor is yours, Indra.
So, hello everyone. Just a second. So, hello everyone. As I was introduced, I'm Indra from Latvia. I'm a landscape architect in this team. So, I will present work of working group number 3 of regenerative construction and operations. And so the working group of our international team started its work on 2018, and it challenged questions on how can a building be built and operated in a regenerative way, and how can regenerative principles be integrated in construction and operation processes, and actually how can to realize a paradigm shift.
Sorry, you can be here. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're fine in there.
I'm so sorry, really, because now I'm not talking anymore. So
No problem.
because outside perhaps is much
We
better.
don't invade you. It's okay. You're fine.
Okay, because I don't need any more.
Emanuele, can you mute yourself, please?
Can you mute, Emmanuel? Thank you. So yes, and as a third question, what to challenge was how to realize that paradigm shift from the business as usual to regenerative construction process. And the easiest answer is that this can be achieved through integration of restorative and regenerative principles in the construction operation. However, the current situation when we started our work in the construction operation do not include or only include partially sustainable and regenerative values. There are a number of gaps, difficulties, barriers, and opportunities. Working Group 3 focused on the sustainable regeneration of construction sector for buildings, landscape, and infrastructure across the spectrum of sustainability values along the all real estate life cycle. All relevant interests and interest groups were aimed to be integrated and in a balanced manner. So the key phases were procurement, considering what follows design stage. Emanuele just described quite widely, and proceeds to construction phase, including bidding, tendering, procurement, construction, from the preparation of the site up to the management of the construction site, including materials, technologies used during the construction process, operation, starting from commissioning and going through the operation and maintenance of the building, and future life, considering what's happening to the building after its preliminary life, including refurbishment, retrofit, reuse, adaptation, and in the worst case, demolition and dismantling. And our international research identified 3 major transformations of construction real estate industry during the main stages of the life cycle of the building and the construction through the operation up to the future life. And the built environment and environmental impact can drive the steps toward regeneration by identified 3 set of steps regarding construction strategies, facilities management, and historic buildings and existing building stock. Currently, the construction sector is one of the industries generating the greatest environmental impact, including carbon emissions that impacts climate change. Thus, the shift from degenerative construction strategies to positive net environmental impact is urgent. using regenerative materials and regenerative technologies, and encourage all the stakeholders of the construction sector to move further, shifting from implementing degenerative or less bad strategies to other strategies that could reach net zero carbon emission and even positive and net environmental impact. The importance of usage phase along the life cycle of the built environment and solutions in the sustainable and regenerative management of properties and neighborhoods is needed. Also, facility management during planning and construction is well known. It is still not applied frequently enough. User and operator processes should be considered, simulated, and optimized, including measures that seem simple, such as an efficient way of putting new buildings or buildings that have been renovated to their core into operation. Finally, adjusted settings instead of factory settings of the building services like heating, ventilation, not only save energy, but also increase user satisfaction and health. One need to take a further step from classical view of facility management, the individual building, to the neighborhood level, or even an entire city. Urban facilities management would require a paradigm shift in real estate management. New processes, contractual models in letting and management, and changed attitudes of owner and investor should be established in order to promote regenerative sustainability. Historic buildings and environments can become drivers from regenerative sustainability. The heritage adaptation is an effective strategy to trigger climate change action and community resilience while meeting United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Built environment professions are urged to reflect on the potential impact on heritage buildings, which may already be subject to strong pressure and risks related to decay, lack of maintenance, redundancy, and on top of other vulnerabilities such as hydrogeological instability, depopulation, and abandonment. Follow the mentioned 3 steps, which we are described in the Working Group 3 booklet, trained in the training school and established in the Restore network. Using regenerative materials and regenerative technologies, and encourage all stakeholders of the construction sector to move further, shifting from implementing degenerative or bad strategies that could provide positive net environmental impact. And Restore, when it started, were in line with global policies and in line with establishment of the new EU policies. The European Commission on 11th of December presented the European Green Deal. And as you remember, our working group started to work in 2010. And as you know, the Green Deal now is a roadmap for making EU economy sustainable, but turning climate and environmental challenges into opportunities across all policy areas and making the transition just and inclusive for all. Also, during our workshop of Restore Midterm and conference on 14th of March in Bolzano, to be in line with these policies, we were divided in 17 teams, each dedicated to discuss single SDG in order to check and redefine Restore strategy to make it more consistent and coherent with SDG goals. So also we had a training school in Bolzano in Italy from 11th till 14th of March 2019 with the aim to find solutions from regenerative concepts and design to reality. As a result of the working group, we developed a booklet compiling all findings and thoughts and conclusions and suggestions, and we proposed how to build bridge for transition between regenerative design vision and realization of that vision. So the procurement process have to be seen as invaluable tool to raise awareness and force change through the supply chain. Early contractor involvement is a critical approach, and where a contractor's skills are introduced early in a project to bring regenerative sustainability and design buildability and cost efficiency to the pre-construction phase. It is essential to establish collaborative principles as early as possible and to develop procurement for circular economy. Within our group, there were developed value management and value engineering to define regenerative sustainability. It was developed regenerative sustainability bid cost model, and there was compared today's approach from today's procurement process and proposed tomorrow's approach. As one of the concepts, what was included in this model was mood, as a Japanese term, identified several forms of waste: transport, inventory, motion, waiting, over processing, and defect skills that can central to lean management systems. So how to turn from this muda towards zero muda. Within the working group and also this as a task of the training school, there were developed tool, pre-qualification questionnaire to raise awareness and force change through the supply chain. Restore contribution to regenerative constructions and operations were scrutinized incorporations of regenerative sustainability through key aspects of the construction process: materials, technologies, and tools. There were working group survey developed to understand the current situation of sustainability in the construction sector, to identify barriers, challenges, and opportunities for implementation of emerging materials and technologies, and to increase awareness and knowledge of sustainable construction Europe. However, the conclusions are that advanced and findings that advanced and emerging materials and technologies are poorly used within the construction sector, as very few respondents claim to use them in more than a half of their projects. These materials and technologies have a higher rate of application in new buildings, building construction rather than in building renovation. And recommendations were to increase awareness and knowledge among construction actors of the different possible regenerative materials, tools, and technologies, develop guidelines and manuals, develop specific regulations, and to promote the construction of regenerative buildings, and efficient economies, incentives. Regenerative contribution to regenerative operation and maintenance was how facility management can preserve and regenerate the built environment. And there were proposed 3 steps from regenerative new building drivers to regenerative drivers of historic buildings and existing building stock. The first step is integration of facility management during planning and construction, user and operation processes. And it should be considered in really early stages. Step 2 is during operation, adjusted settings of building services, heating, ventilation should be introduced. Step 3 is a shift from classical view in facility management of the individual building to the neighborhood and even in entire city level. They were proposed social, ecological, environmental targets of regenerative facility management, developed guidelines to change regenerative operations, maintenance, and use. For restore contribution to future circular life, revised paradigm shift of humans' mind and habits It revised future circular construction processes, setting buildings that can learn and understanding the rhythm of the place. The concept that buildings until they are worn out are no longer usable is challenged by the application of a range of innovative regenerative initiatives, including circular economy, cradle to cradle, and buildings as material banks. The second step from regenerative new building drivers toward regenerative drivers of historical buildings and existing building stock are adaptation to avoid potential negative impact on heritage buildings, which may already be subject to strong pressure and risks related to decay, lack of maintenance and redundancy, and climatic vulnerability, and rethink the concept of existing building from urban mines to new buildings. There was developed guidelines how towards how the future life might be developed through reducing waste, reusing waste, using waste as a resource, pushing from implementation of circular economy thinking, revising concept of the waste and imagining waste of the future. And the largest question after all this restore project should be what's next? So how are we going further? And the European Commission presented on 14th of October 2020 New European Bauhaus and large design phase on 18th of January 2021. And there are already a selection of examples, ideas, challenges, what you can see on the right. That includes also our case studies like urban mining and recycling unit. And I would encourage us to think how we can support by results of Restore and also maybe by our other related researches. And the European Commission is inviting us in the SenseMaker tool as a big complex theory data to include these challenges, ideas, and examples, and ask, do we have concrete examples to share? And is there any biggest challenges and most pressing needs? And do we have ideas on how to trigger a broader transformation? I think Restore has these answers and has found them. So I would invite us to share Restore voice. So far, thank you. And yeah.
Thanks a lot, Indra, for this insightful presentation of yours.